worksheet is. If you haven't downloaded the worksheet yet, I strongly urge you to do so, because following the worksheets as you're going along, you'll get an awful lot more value out of being on this webinar. I'll turn off my phone. So we're recording. I hope everybody's okay. I haven't had anybody sign an what is it, performer's release or an artist release form. So I'll just trust that you're okay with being recorded. If not, I assume everybody will disappear. This is the special Small Business Masterminds webinar about the purpose of your business and why anybody should care, specifically and only for North Sydney Chamber of Commerce members, people who attended last week Tuesday's breakfast. And it's nice to see so many of you again here today. Yeah, I really enjoyed meeting you last week, and a number of you said that you'd had some great food for thought from my little presentation. So I was really pleased to hear that. And so today I want to go a little deeper, and help you take a next step. So as I said in my talk last week, finding the deeper purpose of your business is a process. It's not a simple answer like 2 + 2 = 4. So here we go. This is what today's webinar will look like. First of all, I'm going to give you a whole heap of stuff, as much as I can cram into your brains in the time that we have. So hang on. As you probably noticed last week, I love this topic. I get passionate about it. I do, and the main reason I do is because I've seen what a difference it makes. So in a moment, I'll tell you what you can expect during the session and what we'll cover. I will, again, not sell anything. I'll give you another opportunity to take one more step, a bigger step, at the end of this webinar. And I'll explain how that works briefly, and you can decide to take up that opportunity if you want to, if it's right for you at this stage, okay? Oh, I should have gone to this slide already. So, general comment before we go on. It's been proven time and time again that passively sitting and listening to someone talking means that you're going to forget 90% of what you've heard in less than a week. So if you want to get as much return on your investment of your time in being in this workshop, in this webinar, you need to participate. And the best way to ensure that you participate is to download the worksheets that I've got for you on the special landing page. With the link in the top of the chat window there. Go there, download the worksheet and print it out and work your way along as we're going. If you get lost, do put up your hand. Do put up, with the My Mood button at the top of your screen. You've got My Moods. You've got various ways that you can quickly interact with me by raising your hand if you want to ask a question or tell me to slow down or speed up, whatever you prefer. And I've got a question from Kirsten, and I'm going to cut back to the question in a minute, if that's okay with you, Kirsten. We'll get back to that question if that's okay. That's great. Thanks for having a question for me already. So ask questions by the chat window at the bottom of your screen. If you ask a question, I will check in with you, or as I just demonstrated, we'll put it on hold and get to it a little bit further. So next, if you're going to get distracted by Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, email, text messages, your phone, turn it all off. You don't think you can be focused on Facebook and get value from this workshop, this webinar at the same time. I don't know why I keep calling it a workshop. It's just not going to happen. Not even for the women on this call, and there's a few of you. Multitasking is a myth. Honestly, truly, believe me. I know you won't, but still. This is our agenda for the day. We're going to quickly recap from what I was talking about last Tuesday. We're going to run a poll and check in where you are on this topic. We're going to check in and see what's come up for you since last Tuesday. We're going to talk about the intersection between your needs and your customers, and I briefly talked about that last Tuesday as well, but we'll get into that a little bit deeper. We're going to talk about the story of Simon the shopkeeper. There'll be the 5 questions I've mentioned last week. We're going to talk about them in greater depth, and we're going to actually start working through those a little bit. Then there's another story, the story of the furniture maker. I'm going to talk about the end of the profit motive. I'm going to talk about courage. Then we recap again. Then, as I mentioned before, I'm going to give you we're going to give you information to take up another opportunity, to take an easy peasy, lemon squeezy next step with a very special offer that includes a very special charity. And then finally, we're going to get into action because it's time to take some action steps, I reckon. Any questions, please ask. There's a couple of other things in those last two, end of the profit motive and courage, that those two are optional. It depends on how much time we spend in other areas, because I'm committed to making sure that we don't spend more than an hour in here. That's the commitment. So if we run out of time, then we can save those 2 bits for another time, one or both of them. I don't have to tell you much about me anymore, but I will remind you that what my purpose is, and it comes from my belief, and we'll talk about that further. That I believe that most business owners are daunted and overwhelmed, and they don't feel great about themselves and their business. And so the purpose of my business is to help business owners feel great about themselves and about their business by building businesses that are fun and that sustain them for years to come. And so I've also written the books, The 10 Truths. So outcomes. We're going to be spending some time on the question, why does your business exist and why should anybody care? And I want you to all walk away. My outcome is that I want you to all walk away one step closer to uncovering the purpose of your business. That's what I want to achieve. Now, the question for you is, what do you want to achieve by being here tonight on this webinar? I want you to think about that question and write it down on your worksheet. And then there's space on page 2 of your worksheet, I believe. Let me just check. Page 3. Oh no, where is it? Sorry, I made an error I didn't leave space for that. Anyway, so there's enough white space. Or write it on a blank piece of paper. Sorry about that. So the question is, what do you want to achieve here tonight? What do you want to get from being here? You're giving it an hour of your time. What would make it worth your while to spend an hour here? And I'm going to give you a minute to think about that. Well, not quite, but still. So that's the cover page of the first chapter of my first book. It is about the business purpose. And the truth 1 is that a business without true purpose and passion isn't. And truth 1 from my second book says this, also about purpose. A business that sustains you for years to come has a purpose for existing far beyond making profit or maximizing shareholder value. So let's quickly recap on what I talked about last Tuesday. So the features of a fun business. How do we know that we've got a fun business that sustains us for years to come? It's when we have lots of customers who want what you have to offer. And on your worksheet, I'm repeating those things as well on page 2 of your worksheet. Lots of customers, easy decision-making processes, everyone's on the same page, good profits, good cash flow. The work of the business, of your work, is rewarding and fulfilling for all. And there are 10 key aspects of business that we must manage and get on top of to build a business that's fun and that sustains you for years to come. And those 10 aspects are the purpose of business, your business model, planning and goal setting, numbers, measurement, finance, marketing and sales, delivery and service, management and rhythm, quality or continuous improvement or systems, people, team, and finally, leadership. And the first one of those 10 key aspects is to find absolute clarity on the purpose of your business. That's number one. And purpose of your business, the purpose of your business is not the 3 grades. It's not to deliver great products at a great price with great customer service. And neither is the purpose of your business to make lots of money. And to uncover the purpose of your business, we have to start by answering the 5 questions about your values, your personal beliefs, and your passions or excitements. I know some of us don't like that word passions, but anyway, we'll stick with that for a moment. Your passions and excitement, what makes you fired up, what fires you up in your business, and the question about who your ideal customers and what their needs are. So, as I said, clarity about the purpose of your business changes everything. It's the first step to building a fun business that sustains you for years to come. And clarity about the purpose of your business delivers all of those features. It delivers to customers and the decision making and the engaged staff and rewarding work and lots of profit. And these are the 5 questions. What are your top 3 personal values? What are your deeply held beliefs about your industry, profession, and customers? What are you passionate about? What do you get excited about? Who are your ideal customers? What do your customers need that they can't get from anyone else? And it is all just too much, right? It's overwhelming and it's daunting. So let's see how we can move things forward. First, I'm going to check in with you guys to see how you're all feeling about this topic and your business. So we're going to run a little poll. And here comes the poll. Talk amongst yourself for a minute. Hang on. And bang. The poll is, if I haven't made another mistake, also on your worksheet. Yes, it's on page 3. The top of page 3 is the poll questions. So when I think about the purpose of my business, what I feel is this. I feel frustrated because all I seem to be able to do is compete on price. It seems like my market and my customers have mostly no other interest in my business than being the cheapest. Or B, I'm confused. I don't understand. I thought making profit would be the most important reason for my business to exist. Or C, I'm hamstrung because I know I want to go on what I want to achieve, but my customers seem to want me to go somewhere else most of the time. Or D, I'm excited because I absolutely know what my business exists for, and my customers and my staff are just as excited about that as I am. So can I get you all to vote? A, B, C, or D? Still got a couple of votes to come in. A, B, C, or D? Great, that's great. Thank you. Great. So yes, so the results are, we've got one person voting D, and the rest of you are all more or less equally divided between A, B, and C. That's right. And that's exactly what I expect. When I ask this question of small business owners, that's generally the answer I get. We're confused, frustrated, and hamstrung. But so why would we care about that? Why do we need to get clear about the purpose of our business? Why should we ask ourselves, why should we ask ourselves the question, what is the purpose with a capital P of my business? Why does the business exist? What's it here for? Why do I have to get so clear about the answer? And this is why. If you don't care why your business exists, your customers certainly won't either. Sadly, again. And what that means is that all that's left then is to compete on price. And competing on price is a dog's game. A couple of you found that your major frustration that people seem to only be interested in you as being the cheapest, and that's exactly why. So, no, that's not where it's meant to go yet. We're meant to have the question slide at the moment. So before we get into a few more stories, let's see what questions you guys have about this topic. So how are you feeling about this topic? If I ask you, if I were to ask you, tell me about your business, explain to me why I would use you instead of anyone else. What's the problem you solve for your customers? What's special about your business? What's great about your business? How would you answer those questions? And so this is what somebody said the other day. When I asked this question of someone called Phil, he said, well, we're real estate agents and we pride ourselves in taking a really personal approach. We get you the best price and you'll be kept informed of what's going on and you'll get daily updates and we'll tell it to you straight. No nonsense. Right? And when I asked somebody the other day at another meeting I was at, a very similar question. Again, they got a similar kind of statement about, well, we really care and we believe in doing the right thing and more of those kinds of statements, and they all come back to that great price, great customer service, great product. So let me remind you of this thing that I said that makes all the difference. The perfect purpose with a capital P of your business, the deepest purpose of your business, is found at the exact intersection between your own needs and those of your customer. Remember I said there are 5 questions, the 5 questions, the first 3 are about you and questions 4 and 5 are about your customers. You need to nail all 5 questions before you find your deepest purpose. So some of the purpose statements I've heard people mention come really close to answering questions 4 and 5 about the customer's needs, but they miss out on what sustains you. Other statements are still essentially talking about the 3 grades: product, price, and customer service. And it's hard. I get it. It is hard. This is deep stuff. So we're going to work through those 5 questions together in a moment or in a little bit. And I'm going to give you heaps of examples along the way. But first I'm going to tell you another story. Because this actually happened last week. It was really exciting. It actually happened on Monday and finally on Tuesday. And as a matter of fact, there was a whole heap of text messages about this after I turned off my phone when I left the meeting on Tuesday, your meeting on Tuesday. There was a whole bunch of text messages about this from this particular client last week. So we'll call this client Simon. So Simon's one of my oldest clients, right? I've worked with him on and off for the past 8 years, and Simon's developing a really amazing business in Sydney, and I have no doubt that in a few years he's going to start to become a household name. So Simon bought a rundown little old supermarket in the inner city a few years ago, and he was still quite young and inexperienced when he bought the little business. It was tiny and it was barely breaking even. It really wasn't. It was a dodgy corner store. It really was. Now, running a corner shop in the inner city is hard, right? There's corner shops everywhere, and then there's the 7-Elevens and City Express stores, and even Woolworths and Coles. They get on the act from time to time. Woolworths has just opened another new concept of a small store. And the hours are insane, profitability is minimal, and the competition is just insanely crazy. So, and Simon often caught himself thinking, how can I escape this deadly competition trap with my neighbour so we can all have a better life, right? Even Darlinghurst, there was plenty of other competition around him. And so Simon and I came to realise that the only way to escape the competition trap was to make the competition irrelevant. And the way to make the competition irrelevant is by making yourself completely and truly and utterly unique, by creating something that is completely different from everything else out there. Oh, that one wasn't meant to be there. So let's say that was his store before. It wasn't quite, of course, this is somewhere else. But anyway, so Simon and I decided to become the best small supermarket in Sydney. The best small supermarket in Sydney. And the day he made that decision, everything changed, because Sydney has great corner stores, handy convenience stores, and big Coles and Woolworths, sexy delis and grocers, but there's only one best small supermarket in Sydney. And now, Simon is actually in the midst of signing leases for stores number 5 and 6, and his first 4 best small supermarkets in Sydney are doing a roaring trade. Simon's customers love him, and they love his stores. Profits are many times what they were 7 years ago, and Simon's been creating something really special in the inner city of Sydney. This is how special it is. When he opened the other day in a new suburb, or half a year ago, some of his future customers actually came and brought him flowers because they're so happy that he turned up. But here's the really interesting thing, because the story goes on. That's one of his stores now. But the story goes on. See, I've told this story to many people many times as one of the examples of how having a clear purpose statement makes an enormous difference to the development of a business. And it has. But the last year or so, especially since he opened the 3rd and 4th stores, he and I have both increasingly found that statement to be the best small supermarket in Sydney to be limiting and difficult to communicate. With the opening of his 3rd and 4th stores, he now has lots more staff, and he has managers in each store and more of an organisation, and he isn't in the stores every day, all day, and communicating what the best means has become increasingly challenging, and hence his staff and his customers aren't entirely engaged with it anymore, and he has noticed the effect of that. It's really interesting, and I noticed it as well. And he and his original staff know exactly, his original staff and him, and one of them is his brother, and so it's a family connections, and they all know, what it's about. So he and his original staff know exactly what that statement, the best small supermarket in Sydney, stands for. But down the line now, and a few years later with lots more staff, it isn't so clear anymore. And we've had several conversations, he and I, about what needed to be done. Long story short, we went through the exact same process with the same 5 questions again, and we dug deeper and deeper and deeper. And last Monday night, just before he went to bed, he suddenly got him, and it just hit him like a flash, right? And so he was ringing me and texting me all of Monday night and Tuesday morning while I was delivering my talk to you guys, and while I was networking with you because he was so excited. Because this is what suddenly hit him in a flash. We make it easy for our customers. To access a complete range of quality food. Easy for our customers to access a complete range of quality food. I think, that's on page 4, the top of page 4 of your worksheet. And what's happened since Tuesday is that he's held a workshop with his managers on Thursday about this purpose statement, and suddenly everyone gets it. He told me on Friday, this is last Friday, that in the workshop, one of his managers said, okay, if it's about making it easy, we absolutely must do something with the access to the shop in Newtown. Because it's not easy for old people, it's not easy for people with prams to get into the store and access our range of quality food. Remember that story of John the electrician that I mentioned on Tuesday, and how he knew that he was on the right track when one of his foremen pointed out that they should no longer install those cheap circuit breakers, right? So Simon's has had exact same similar kind of experiences in this week alone, and it will take his business to the next level, Because suddenly it's clear to him that this particular range of, this, for example, right? That's one of the things he was telling me on Tuesday. It suddenly became clear to him that there's a particular range of grocery items that he has stocked for years. It's called Black and Gold. It comes from Metcash, whatever, Black and Gold. But that range of grocery items that's been part of his ranges for a long time, it's no longer appropriate for the shop because it's not part of a range of quality goods, foods, right? It's a cheap range, and it's a white label kind of range, and it doesn't belong in a supermarket that makes it easy for his customers to access a complete range of quality foods. That one doesn't belong there. So again, it's one of those clarity moments, aha insights, and this particular client gets very excited about many things, but this is about as excited as I've ever seen him. He just couldn't contain himself because suddenly everything just made sense for him. And I was actually in one of his stores yesterday morning, and I was chatting to one of his managers, and he was totally excited about it as well. So yeah, it's as I said, it's really energizing to find those moments. Any questions at this point? Any thoughts? Feel free to type them out. I'm not forgetting your question, Kirsten. I'll be getting back to it. So what I want to do is I want to go through each of the 5 questions with each other. I'm going to give you some insights on how others have answered those questions, and you can work through them yourself at the same time. I trust that's okay. Now, let's try and make this as interactive as possible. And if you actually want to talk, I'll take you. Everybody's on mute, of course, otherwise it becomes impossible. But if you actually want to ask questions, but put your hand up, and I'll or type that in, and I'll unmute you. And if the line quality is okay, we can talk about it as well at times. So, but unless I specifically get a request from someone to be unmuted, I won't, because I know what it's like. You get too much interference, and it just annoys the hell out of everybody. But we can certainly give it a go if we need to, if you want to. So you've got on your worksheets, starting on page, page 4, got the first exercise. So this is the exercise about values. So what I want you to do is to look at that whole range of values that goes across the page to page 5. And in the left-hand column, the blank column in front, in front of all the values, I want you to tick the ones that are most important to you. And don't think about it too long, just tick, 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 all the ones that matter to you. And once you've done that, I'm going to give you another minute. Once you've done that, now in the right-hand column, number the top 5. So number 1 is the most important, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which are your most important 5? And once you've done that, circle the top 3 and write them down separately on your worksheet. There's some space at the bottom if there's other values that come up for you that that I haven't listed there. And so these are my values that my purpose statement is based on: loyalty, kindness, usefulness, reliability, and quietness. loyalty, kindness, usefulness, and reliability, and quietness. Now, remember at my talk, you may not remember, I gave you guys all a few purpose statements, sample purpose statements from other companies. And one of the ones I talked about was from a builder. I talked about it briefly, and his purpose statement is this: the calmest building projects in Sydney. The calmest building projects in Sydney. I remember some of you went, "Oh yeah, that'll be right." The calmest building projects in Sydney, and these are his top personal values that led to the creation or the finding of that those personal values, that purpose statement. His personal values were family, self-development, integrity, professionalism, and reliability. All right, hang on, we've got a question from Robin. Robin, personal values or business values? I feel like they're different. Yes. Great question, Robin. Personal value. Personal values would... Okay, so you want to know whether to focus on your business or your personal values. Well, the point, I suppose, is that there is an intersection there, that there's an overlap, or there I believe there should be. So I ask you to focus on your most important personal values first, and tick all of the ones in the left-hand column that are your most important personal values. Then I ask you to number the top 5 in the right-hand column, and then damn, you're in the wrong job. Okay. Well, that's a very interesting question, but hang on. But so then we ask you to number the top 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I ask you to circle the top 3. Now, those top 3, I suppose I would say, are your personal values, the most important personal values in the context of your business. So, but I do mean personal values, though. I mean, so if we're talking about the builder, so his purpose statement, as I said, is the calmest building project in Sydney. His personal values are family, self-development, integrity, professionalism, and reliability. And family is number 1. And by the way, that's the same. And that's the same for Simon. His top personal value is family as well. So the way that relates to that purpose statement, the calmest building project in Sydney, is that if he doesn't run calm building projects, and he's very clear about that, if his building projects if he doesn't strive to run calm building projects, he comes home stressed and he can't give time and attention to his family. So family is absolutely connected to his, although it's a personal value, it's very much connected to how he runs his business. And Robin, so you said, damn, I'm in the wrong job. I hear you. Sometimes it can be, but it's a very interesting question, is to ask yourself, how are my personal values reflected in my business, and which of my personal values are in conflict with my business? So I'll use that one of that family, that personal value of family, which was both for the builder and for Simon very important, number 1. If your most important value is family, and you run a business where you never get home, and because you're always working and you're always rushing around, flying around the country or around the world, and so you don't get to see your kids, you don't get to take your kids to soccer practice on the weekend or whatever, then you could well ask yourself if this business is sustainable, because if this business can sustain you for years to come. Remember, it comes back to that question: the business that is fun and that sustains you for years to come. So a business that is in conflict with one or more of your, significantly in conflict with one or more of your personal values, I would argue, will not sustain you for years to come. So I hope, Robin, that went some way towards answering your question. Otherwise, we can come back to it later. I just want to run you through Simon's personal values as well. So we've looked at mine, we've looked at the builder, and we've looked at Simon. So feel free to write them down, of course. Simon's personal values are these: the top 5: family, competitiveness and winning, self-development, loyalty, and community. And remember, so his purpose, the purpose of Simon's business, has now been clarified as of last Monday night, afternoon, to make it easy, for my customers to access a complete range of quality foods. So, before we move on to the next exercise, which will be beliefs, but any questions on this, any other questions on this topic of values before we move to beliefs? Okay. So, beliefs is the trickiest one. People find that most tricky to answer, obviously, and I haven't yet been able to think of a nice, simple worksheet like the ones for values. So I'm going to give you a few examples. Another example as well, besides myself, the builder, and Simon. I'll also talk about the beliefs of a beauty salon that I worked with. So on your, you've got some space on your worksheet. It's on the next page 6, I think. To write down your beliefs. This is as I said, this is what people find the trickiest to answer. So there's a beauty salon I worked with, and her beliefs were this: I believe, she said, that beauty therapists aren't given the professional respect that they deserve in our society. So in other words, she believes that good beauty therapists are professionals and they deserve to be given professional respect. That's one of the beliefs she holds deeply. She's passionate about that belief. The second belief that she holds is that the beauty industry is corrupted by marketing and by brands, and it's all about selling products rather than grooming and looking after your skin, which is the largest organ in your body. So they're very clearly held beliefs that she has about her industry and her business. So this is my belief, or one of my beliefs that is, got lots of beliefs, lots of soapboxes. One of my beliefs that is relevant to my purpose. See, I believe that business owners are the most creative, most resourceful, and most committed people you will ever meet, and business owners ought to feel proud of themselves. Yet most of them feel overwhelmed and inadequate and stuck at some level a lot of the time. Here's the belief of the builder. I believe, he says, that to carry out building work in a way that creates the best outcomes for my clients, my staff, and my suppliers, I need to be in control of every step of the process. If I'm not in control of every step in the process, I cannot guarantee the best outcomes for my clients and my staff and my suppliers. And so Simon's belief: busy people in the inner city areas want to access high-quality food options instead of the everyday brands supplied by the majors such as Coles and Woolworths. But to do so is very inconvenient, and it takes too much time and hassle. Right. So there are 4 very different businesses. It's 4 very different beliefs, all underlying their ultimate purpose statement. Remember, mine, the builders, is create the calmest building projects in Sydney. Simon's belief, as we've talked about several times, are the ultimate the purpose statement of the beauty salon was, or is, Every customer leaves with greater confidence. It's all about confidence for her, ultimately. And so none of these belief statements are any better than others, but they're deeply held beliefs, personally deeply held beliefs, relevant to, you might have a personally held belief about the environment or about Middle East peace. And that's obviously not relevant to your business, but it's definitely a personally held belief. Personally held beliefs. The next one is passion and excitement. Any questions at this moment? Feel free to speak up. The next question is passion and excitement, and I think it was you, Robin, wasn't it? I'm not allowed to use passion. I'm going to keep doing it anyway. So, what do you get excited about? What makes you go, yeah, right? What do you? I know. What makes the adrenaline rush in your business? And again, there's space there to fill it in. So here are some examples again of passions and excitement. So my passion, I think I've copied that on the worksheet as well in grey. I love going on journeys of personal discovery with people. I see people come through the tough challenges and coming out the other end and blossoming. That's what gets me out of bed every morning. The builder loves building sites where everyone is happy to do his work and where it all just flows. He just loves building, having a whole day on a building site where everything just falls into place. It makes him go home, feel really good about life. And Simon loves high quality produce. There's a long story about that, but he loves going to the markets at 3 in the morning. He does 3 in the morning. And he loves it. I don't know. But he loves finding the really good fruit and vegetables that he's become famous for, amongst many other things. They're the passions and the excitements. Questions before we go on to ideal customer? So you might have 2 or 3 or 4 different perfect customers. So let's start with one. Describe your customer in great detail. Give them a name, if you will. Where do they live? What are they passionate about? Remember, talk about Carlo, the client Carlo. The story of Carlo I told on Tuesday. And Carlo was the guy, the Italian, he imports the bags, travel bags, and so forth. So he defined his perfect customer, and he even gave her a name. Her name was Anna. His perfect customer is Anna, and he knows exactly. He's formed a complete picture exactly of what Anna is, where she lives, what her life it looks like, if she's married, if she's single, if she kids, all that kind of stuff. What she's passionate about, and what she loves, and what gets her excited. Oh no, that passion word keeps coming back. Sorry. So, give you my perfect customer. My perfect customer is a small business owner who started her business 2 to 5 years ago because she's really good at what she does. So the business is about her skill and her expertise, architecture, cooking, web development, whatever. Now, a few years on, she's realized that it takes more than being a great architect to build a great architecture business. She feels frustrated, overwhelmed, and daunted, and she wants to push the business past the invisible hurdle that has kept the business more or less in the same place for a while now. She's stuck in a swamp, and she's starting to become clear that she needs outside help to get out of the swamp. That's my perfect customer. Here's the builder's perfect customer. The builder's perfect customer lives in Sutherland Shire. Young family, both parents working in professions. Quality, good design is important for them, but luxury isn't. They realize that to get a good outcome, they have to engage a high-quality architect and work with a builder who's just as professional in his approach as they are. Simon's perfect customer, interestingly, is not too dissimilar to the builder's perfect customer, which is a very interesting, that when you find those kind of overlaps, it's really interesting to consider whether the two of them could work together, right? If you both have the same customer and you don't compete, well, anyway, this is a completely different topic, marketing. Let's not go to joint ventures. Sorry about that. So Simon's perfect customer is probably very similar to the builders, although Simon has a couple of different perfect customers, but one of them is definitely very similar to the builders. And Simon's customers live in the inner city and eastern suburbs and inner west, more so than in Sutherland Shire. Right? So they're perfect customers. So who's yours? Who's your perfect customer? He, she. Where does she live? Is she married? Single? How old? Etc. Questions before we move to the last of the 5 questions. Your customer's needs, the last of the 5 questions. What does your perfect customer need? Question from Kirsten. So it's good to be specific rather than general. Yes, thank you, Kirsten. Great question. I know you've still got another question hanging before, but we'll come back to it. Yes, so it's good to be specific rather than general. Yes, the reason I say that this is not about necessarily niching and say that you're only going to sell your stuff to Anna, but by being really, really specific about who your perfect customer is, you can design your messages to suit that customer. Now, because it's important to know, see, a message that's directed at Anna is not going to be directed at John, because they have very different needs and they live in different places. There's different ways you need to get to them. So the message that I have to craft has to get to certain people. So where are they? I need to know where they are. Well, the perfect customer that I described, and I can go into a lot more detail. I know what they do. I know what they read, or at least I have some idea what they read or what they watch and where they are, and so I know how I'm going to talk to them. If you're general, then you're just sort of what they call spray and pray. You know, that you can't base a marketing strategy on a general. I'll try and cover everybody. So, absolutely, in the design of your marketing messages and the purpose of your business, you need to be really specific. Does that answer your question? If not, feel free to come back to it. So here comes the last question. What is your perfect customer need that they're not getting from others at the moment? What is your perfect customer need? That Anna, what does she need that they're not getting from others? So here's mine. My customer is looking for someone who can help them out of that swamp. They don't know the way out, and they've started to find that the harder they struggle in the swamp, the more stuck they get. And they want a guide who knows the way out. All other consultants tell them the 10 steps to success, or the 10 things they must do every day, or the 12 secrets to grow their business. But all of those tips, all of that advice just adds to their overwhelm. It actually just makes them more overwhelmed. My customers generally know what they need to know. They've heard it all, and that's exactly why they are overwhelmed. Taking on any of the other business advisors just makes them feel more daunted and more inadequate and more guilty and more stressed. So that's the need of my perfect customer. The builder's perfect customer's needs is this. The builder's customers need to feel absolute trust that the builder will look after their home and has exactly the same values of quality and design without going overboard, and that the builder will do what he says he'll do. And Simon's customers' needs are, Simon's customers need to access high quality meat. They want to access high quality fruit, vegetables, bread, meat, and all the groceries, but they want choices they don't get in the majors, and they don't want to have to travel between a whole bunch of specialist stores, and they hate the big supermarkets. Right? So they're the perfect customers of those 3 examples. What about your customers? Now here's another example. Rewind. So what about your customers? What what does your perfect customers need that they're not getting from someone else? Now, remember I said you're not necessarily going to answer all these questions perfectly here. All we're hoping to achieve today is that you get one step closer to answering them all. These are tough questions. They're not easily answered. As I said, with Simon, it took years to actually get deeper again, right? He got the initial one, and then a few years we were happy with that, and then we had to go a bit deeper again. Any questions, of course, please ask. I'm going to give you another story, another example. There's a furniture factory. There was a furniture factory owned by a guy called Nicholas Datner. That's his real name. Other names I've mentioned, they're not being real, but Nicholas Datner is real. And the purpose of his business was the most beautiful tables in the world, the most beautiful tables in the world. And he was in Gleed. And some of you might have even remember the business if you ever had a course to come to Glebe, drive around Glebe Point Road, Piermont Bridge Road, near the rail overpass. The business doesn't exist anymore now because Nicholas Datner made enough money to sell all his stock and close the business and buy a boat and sail around the world for the rest of his life. Now, I often drove past this showroom, and the statement on the windows caught my eyes every time I went past. And it's actually the first example that I consciously came across of this concept of purpose of business thinking. So quite a few years ago now, it's got me thinking about this whole process, and then researching more about it and reading about other people and other businesses and from other gurus about this stuff. So I used to drive past the showroom, and the statement of the windows caught my eyes all the time, every time I went past. And it was actually really fascinating to look up close. And this is the picture of this table. It's not one of his tables, by the way, but because this business purpose, to make the most beautiful tables in the world, it drove all. You can't hear me. Someone can't hear me. Can you still not hear me? Oh, it keeps cutting in and out. I know it's okay. It's better now. Okay. I'm reasonably sure that my connection is quite stable at the moment, so it may be your connection. So if it gets really bad, then you'll be able to get, as I said, you're going to get the recording later, and you'll be able to fill in the blanks by listening to the recording. But fingers crossed it'll stay okay. But yeah, so I had a bit of an up close look in the business, and I actually sent some customers there, and I went there myself. But that purpose, to make the most beautiful tables in the world, they drove all the decisions and all the processes in the business. Because this is the thing, once you set out to make the most beautiful tables in the world, so many things start to become clear. Because there's no question about pricing. The most beautiful tables in the world could never be the cheapest tables, right? And there's no question about how to select staff, hire staff. To make the most beautiful tables in the world, you have to have well-paid, highly skilled staff and passionate staff that really care. There can never be a question about the materials that you buy to make the most beautiful tables in the world. I mean, you can't just pick any old piece of timber at Bunnings to make one of the most beautiful tables in the world, right? And marketing decisions are easier. Everything becomes easier. So nailing your colors to the mast with such clarity and guts, it takes guts and it takes courage, but it also makes life simpler. And from a marketing perspective, it really becomes easy to start conversations with potential customers. And if you were in the market for a table for your newly renovated home, say, wouldn't you want to at least go and have a look at the world's most beautiful tables? Of course you would. I certainly did. And and I bought one of their tables too, and I sent two friends or clients rather, to them over the years as well when I used to be a builder. Now, you might ask, how can you ever make a statement that you make the most beautiful tables in the world? What does that actually mean? What is beautiful, and what you think is beautiful, I might consider ugly, and how do you measure most beautiful anyway? All right, these might all be questions that you ask. Great questions if you would. But that's the power of the purpose statement. It's a statement of striving. It's a statement that defines an intention. It isn't actually a goal. It's about striving. You can ask yourself, this table that I am making, that I am designing, do I believe it is one of the most beautiful tables in the world? And if I can't answer that question with yes, then I won't make the table and I won't sell it. Other people may decide that that particular table isn't the most beautiful table in the world because they may believe that the most beautiful table in the world has to be made from stainless steel and glass, while your table is made from timber, for example, whatever. But they can't argue that you believe it is the most beautiful table in the world, or one of the most beautiful tables in the world. It's all about your belief, your honesty, your authenticity, your clarity. And that's what people want to hear about. Now, it's 6:30. We've got a few other things to do, but I think I'm going to skip. I said there was a couple of things about that I had the option to skip about, and one is that the profit motive and the other is courage. So we are going to move on through those and well, if you want to talk more about this stuff, as I said, I can keep going forever. So, what's come up for you guys from everything that you've heard me talk about? What did you think when listening to the story of Simon? What came up for you last week with the story of John the electrician? And his purpose, you're in safe hand, or Carlo and his leather bags from Italy to make Italian beauty available for everyone. What about the story of the world's most beautiful tables? What's come up for you in going through the 5 questions and all the examples I've given you from me and Simon and the builder and the beauty salon? What are the top 3 insights? The top 3 insights or learnings that you've got from this webinar and last week's talk so far? Or maybe you don't have more insights, but questions. Maybe you have more questions with yourself, and that's okay too. Nothing wrong with questions. So please write them down. I'm going to just give you another minute to write down your top 3 insights, clarities, or questions while I have a sip of my tea that's gone cold. And please keep on writing. And if you do have some insights that you'd like to share, I would love you to share some of them, or one of them, or questions, or whatever. I'm going to quickly go through in the meantime while I'm waiting for you guys to share anything that you might have. I'll just remind you of this one extra insight. I said I went through all I recapped everything I talked about on Tuesday. But there's one added thing I want you to take away from what I recapped, and that is that the idea of the perfect intersection between your needs and those of your ideal customer. That's a very important idea. So, Maureen, I wonder if you would mind if I make a couple of comments about your purpose statement in the way of food for thought. Well, I'll let everybody in on a secret. I've actually primed Maureen for this question, and she's already given me the permission, so I'm going to go ahead and do so. Thanks, Maureen. So I have a couple of questions about your purpose statement. So Maureen's purpose statement that she's currently got on her email foot is, I help business leaders find their voice so that they can deliver presentations that motivate, influence, and inspire. Now, see, a beautiful client-focused purpose. But I wonder if that statement truly addresses Maureen's own needs yet. I would be concerned that that's totally client-focused and leaves not enough room for Maureen's own needs. Remember that intersection of needs. And the second thing is this. Remember I mentioned when I was talking about the story of the most beautiful table, Nicholas Datner. And I said it takes guts to make a statement like that and to make it out and proud. The most powerful purpose statements are short, and so now I'm coming back to that question you asked, Kirsten, how long does the statement be? And you asked 2 lines. I don't think there's a rule about this, but shorter is by definition better than longer. The most powerful purpose statement I mentioned that I've ever seen, whether or not you like the company is beside the point, but that I've ever seen is 2 words. The Disney company, create happiness. And for my own clients, that's one from the architect that I mentioned, architecture that inspires, 3 words. So the shorter the better. Mine is quite long, my own one. And I'm constantly thinking about how I could make it shorter. But anyway, so shorter the better. But so the question, back to Maureen's. So as I said, it takes guts. The best purpose statements take guts. They are statements that make you go, oh, when you get it, the moment you get your purpose statement, your really deepest purpose statement, 2 things happen. 2 things, you have 2 instant feelings. One is, wow, yeah, that's good. It sits, it's good. Like an old leather jacket, it goes clonk, it sits on your shoulders and it doesn't fit anybody else. That's the one emotion. On the other emotion, and I'm going to swear here a little, so put your fingers in your ear if you can't stand a 4-letter word. The other emotion that you will instantly feel is, oh shit, that's scary. And my question is, because it needs to be out there. It needs to be exposing yourself. It needs to be about, oh my God, am I really prepared to to go out and put my name to that? It's all about stepping outside of your comfort zone big time. And so I wonder, Maureen, if your statement is a little safe. I help business leaders find their voice so that they can deliver presentations that motivate, influence, and inspire. Yeah, okay. All right. Sure. Laudable, but is it scary enough? Anyway, I don't know that I have the answer. I'm just asking the questions. So thanks for being a good sport and letting me ask you those questions. So while you guys are finalizing your thinking, and if you have any other questions, type them in now. Indeed, more food for thought. Indeed. Yep. So I'm going to remind you that the last little of the insights. Money is not the purpose of your business. Competing on price sucks unless you're clear. Competing on price sucks unless you're clear on your purpose. You can only compete on price. The purpose has to relate to your customers. Great work, great price, great service are minimum expectations, and it takes courage, guts to commit to a deep purpose and stick to it. To uncover your purpose, start with your values, your beliefs, and your passions, and ask the 5 questions. And the perfect, deepest purpose is found at the exact intersection of your and your customers' needs. What's next? I want to help you take the next step to finding that absolute clarity about the purpose of your business. All the work you've done so far, moving further and further into the spiral. I want to make it as easy as possible for you to take the next step, to move a bit closer into the center of the spiral. So easy that it's a no-brainer, and this is how easy I can make it to get to get my help to find and take the next step, to find the clarity, which is the foundation of the fun business that sustains you for years to come, the cornerstone. Okay, this is what I'm going to give you. You're going to get to carry out a really powerful business health check. You'll get a simple and easy to understand written report on the state of the health of your business across 10 different key aspects of business. You're going to get a hard copy of my first book, The 10 Truths for Raising a Healthy, Bouncy Business, or if you already have it, you will go on the mailing list to get a copy of my third book when it comes out in a few months. You get this, and then you get to sit down with me for an hour and a quarter, face to face, or via Skype if you prefer, one-on-one, and you will gain enormous great clarity and insight about where you are now, where you want to get to in your business, and walk away a whole lot closer to finding that perfect purpose. I can't promise that you'll have it yet, but you'll be a lot closer, I promise. And you will walk away with some more simple actions to take you even closer again. And all you have to do is make a donation of $100 to the Wayside Chapel in Sydney. That's my favorite charity, amazing organization. All you got to do is make a donation of $100. Well, you can want to donate more, of course, but donation of $100 to the Wayside Chapel gets you all of that. Business health check, a copy of my book, an hour and a quarter session with me, and clarity and direction and actions to move forward with. The offer is also on your worksheet with the web address and the Wayside Chapel on it as well. Okay. About action. This is action. And that's not that one. Action. Nothing going to change, and ain't nothing. Presumably absolutely tax deductible. The Wayside Chapel is a very serious charity. Homeless church in King's Cross. Yeah, tax deductible, absolutely. So ain't nothing going to change if you ain't take no action. These are the next steps, and they're also on your worksheet. This is what I want you to do. First, I want you to set some time aside over the next few days to be able to get into this a little bit further. Be sure to do this, because if you don't set some time aside to do something with what you've learned and the insights that we've talked about and the information that I've given you in the next few days, then coming on this webinar has been a waste of your time, plain and simple. The only thing that ultimately makes any difference is what actions you take. So look at the worksheet. As I said before, there are a bunch of resources on the special web page. It's a questionnaire called the Passion and Purpose Worksheet, which, well, actually, you've mostly got that already. So, but there's a whole bunch of other resources there. So there's a couple of great videos that I've actually only uploaded on it last week that I came across. Simon found some of them actually. So this is what I want you to do. Go to the landing page. Here are the actions. Make time. Go to the landing page and watch the Simon Sinek video. It's a fantastic video. The TED Talk, 18 minutes. It's phenomenal. It'll change your world. Get a notebook and write 30 sentences. 30 sentences with starting this way. The problem I solve for my ideal customer is. 30 sentences starting that way. The problem I solve for my ideal customer is. Now, in the same notebook, you're going to be doing lots of writing. In the same notebook, write your 10 most positive, your memorable, fun memories of running your business or your businesses, as long as you've been in business. Or, in the same notebook, write 30 sentences like this. I have the most fun in my business when. I have the most fun in my businesses when. And finally, I'm going to ask you to do something weird, and this is called scaling, or relative scaling. It's actually a really powerful method to help people get unstuck or to help people find really small step actions to move a big project forward. So, on your worksheet is a scale from 0 to 10. It's called your Master of Purpose scale. 10 on the scale, 10 on the scale is that you are totally purpose-driven with a capital P in your business. All decisions and actions are based on your purpose, and 0 is the opposite. What number would you give yourself on the scale? Next, ask yourself the question, what do I need to do this coming week to move one small increment up my Master of Purpose scale? What's one specific action I can take to move one small increment up the scale, say from 6 to 6.1? Now get your diary out and book that specific action or actions in your diary for next week. And finally, next week, ask yourself the same question too. That's it for this webinar. And please make sure you do these actions, especially the scaling exercise and that Simon Sinek video. You're going to love it. They will not take much time at all, but taking the time to do them makes all the difference. It means you will be taking the first step to building a fun business that sustains you for years to come. And don't forget the special offer. It truly is the best, most fun donation you've ever made to anything. And it's the best offer you've had all year. You're going to get a mountain of value out of it, and I promise it's the best deal you've ever had all year, and Wayside will love you too. Any other questions from anyone? So if you take nothing else away from this webinar today, ask yourself that question, how can I become a little bit more purpose-driven? Thanks, Robin. Yes, please do. You'll get a lot of benefit out of it. Everybody does. So yeah, please do take up the offer. And I'd love to have this session with you. That question will have an amazing impact on your business. You'll be surprised. Any last questions? No. Keep an eye on your inbox. You'll get an email with tomorrow sometime when I've got the recording up on the landing page, so you can watch it again or watch bits of it again. And thank you. I'm going to turn off the recording now.